Today on A Fistful of Lead, the High Elves meet the Big Nasties. Ugh, look how disgusting these big boys are. They come to us, 3 different manufacturers, 10mm figures across the board. The Minotaur and the Ogres are from Pendraken. The 2 Boar Riders are from Irregular Miniatures. And the guys in the back here with the little flamey shields, they come from Cobblestone Castings. They do have a 10mm line. It's pretty good if you want to do some mass battle. Lord of the Rings. Let's talk stats. The Minotaur, of course, is going to be the leader. The 3 big boys are all large, but is that all they got in common? Yeah, the Minotaur is ferocious. He's unstoppable. He's got a club. Unstoppable means he gets a +1 to all his recovery rolls. Ferocious means when he attacks, he gets a +1 wound roll. Now remember, with the club, you have a -1 on the wound check, so between those two, it's going to be no effect, except that with the club, you automatically deliver a shock, no matter what the roll of the wound is. So if you get a wound roll with a shock, you actually get 2 shocks when you're attacking with a club. And I know this guy is carrying a giant rock. He does not have any shooting ability. The 2 ogres are brawlers, meaning they roll d12s in melee. The leaders, as usual, are veterans. They will be rolling d12s. Everybody else is rolling d10s. The Orc Riders are, of course, they have that 10-inch move, and they have they're not shooting. They're going to be armed with clubs. These guys all have light armor, so they have the 8-up save. The guys on the boars have shields, so they get a +1 on that roll. They have a 7-up save, in other words. When they are shaken, they will fall back 8 inches, and if they're wounded, they will dismount. And that's where these guys come in. If our Boar Riders take a wound, they fall off, and we will replace the figure with these guys, meaning the mount is killed, and it effectively gives this whole team 4 wounds before they're removed from the game. For the Elves, we have a similar situation where the 2 mounted guys, their first wounding hit, just removes the mount. The guy has a broken spear. Just ignore that. It's soft metal. I believe these are all Irregular Miniatures figures. The guy in the center is a champion leader. He does have master spellcasting ability. We took the Wild Magic, which means if he's casting on a heart, he'll get a +1 to his spell roll, and he's successful on a 2 or better. On a d12, he's going to do okay. He's also lucky, meaning he gets a reroll 1 per turn. Other than that, though, he's just a defensive fighter. So if he's in a combat that the big boys attack him and he wins, he can fight a second round of combat if he wants. The 3 spells he has are Briar Wall, which it's pretty obvious what that does. He can cast Lightning, which should be pretty obvious what that does. We're going to drop a template. Anybody hit by that template is going to take a wound, provided he succeeds on that 2-up roll. And then he also has a spell called Bind, which is going to pin a guy in place. There's a little spell. I hope we get that off. These are all 1 turn, 1 task to cast. Then you basically have to take a breather, reload. And so he can just cast 1 of these every turn if he doesn't do anything else. The guys that are mounted have Thunderous Charge. They get a +1 to melee when they charge, and they have Fancy Feet, so they win ties in melee. And then the bow guys just have a +1 shooting. I gave them Strong. The only real effect that's going to have is that it allows them to use a longbow, so they will have a range of 12 and 24 centimeters. Like the Boar Riders, they will have a 10-inch move, and they follow all of the usual rules for mounted figures. If they receive a shock marker, they fall back not 5 inches, but 8 inches. And on a double move, they can move 20 centimeters, so they're pretty slippery. Let's talk a little bit about the scenario. This is what the scenario looks like in book number 1. You've got a camp in the center of the board, a hill opposite, and then some woods down here in the opposite corners. We're going to have to improvise a little bit. The map that old Jay Wiley presents us looks exactly like this. This comes from the first book. There are like 10 scenarios in this book. If you can't find one worth playing, then you ain't looking hard enough. We're going to have to improvise. I'm using my travel box, so it's not quite going to look exactly like this. Important features. You've got a hill on one side of the map, a camp in the center, a fordable stream running through, and then a lot of forest. The attackers have to get a figure up here to the top of the hill. That figure has to spend a full turn, 2 tasks, making a task roll. If that roll is successful, and that figure gets off the table, the opposite side, he scores a point. If the defenders prevent anybody from getting off, they score 5 points. So basically, that's about it. But because this is a bit of an ambush, the first turn is going to look a little different. Let me just walk you through it as we play. Say, this looks a little better than I expected it to. By adding the pond, I managed to stretch the stream all the way across the table. It's a little bit longer than it is deep. That's okay. We're going to treat all of the terrain pieces as rough going. The hill, of course, is also rough going, and this is where you got to stand. The story is that the attackers are trying to get to the top of the hill and look down into the valley next door so they can make a map and prepare a battle plan for tomorrow. Over here in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, the wall just demarcates where the forest ends. It's not an actual hardcover obstacle. The attacker starts, well, we'll talk about that in a second. The defender places, let me pull this just a little bit back away from the stream. The defender places all of his pieces within 3 centimeters of the camp, or in the camp. In the campaign game of these 3 rules, the experience system, the resource you have, is called renown. Whichever force has the highest renown is the attacker. Well, I just kind of whipped up these guys off the cuff, and I just looking at all of the special rules for the big boys versus the special rules for the elves, I think we're going to give the attackers to the big boys. This is why I like my selection of forces, because both sides have a couple of zoomy troops, a couple of big troops, and then that leader. The advantage for the elves is the master magic user. I think he's going to make all the difference for them. It's turn number 1, so we deal the cards as normal for the attackers. The defenders keep their cards hidden. They can deploy anywhere they want in the woods on either side of the table using one of the cards that they have been dealt. In a face-to-face game, you call off the cards as you wish. Does anybody want to play a King of Spades? Now, we're going to use this as a heart, and we're going to save it as long as we can because we want to be able to move up and get one of our big spells off. So we're really comfortable with where things are right now, and we count down. Now, if we don't bring a figure onto the table using the queen, then, so we do. Let's just say, for the sake of the game, we do. We're not going to spend any queens. That means the most the attackers can bring on in this first turn is 4 figures. That might be okay, because they may be looking to draw the defenders off to one side, and on turn 2, 3, or 4, try to bring on their zoomies on the other side of the map. So we continue to count down, and we get to 10, and at that point, the ogres say, yeah, you know what? I have a 10 of diamonds. I want to burn this. I want to bring, oh no, well, now this is a hard one to play solo, isn't it? Because there's a lot of the gamesmanship of hidden cards that doesn't really apply. I think we do. Let's go ahead and bring on our ogres and kind of sniff these guys out. We're going to bring one of our ogres on over here. We'll put him where you guys can see him, actually. So he's way up there. He blends in. You know, they're very camouflaged. And that burns the 10 of diamonds for the big boys. And now we have a 9 for this archer over here. And he has to decide, am I going to move over and take a shot at that guy? Oh, I also forgot. That's his first move. So he gets one more action, and he can move an additional 5 centimeters. So we're going to bring him up. We're going to race him for the hillside. And now our archer, with the 9 of diamonds, that's the next highest card, he can take a shot if he's got room. And of course, 24 centimeters, as we said, is his range. So he's got the range. He can take a shot. Now that's going to be a straight D10 for his shooting, because he's at long range. Oh, but he aimed. You can pivot and still shoot. So that negates. But remember that our archers have +1 shooting, and he's shooting at a big boy. Big targets. That's going to be a total of +2 to the blue die, and the defensive die is going to be just a standard. Unless that ogre has anything. Brawler Brute, Impervious, and Large. Nope, that's it. So we take our first shot, and we get a total of 9 to 5, means 4. We make a wound roll on a +4. I'll move that out of the way and see that's both of his actions. Our wound roll on a, well, we won by 4, which means we are at +2 to this roll. And with a 7, that gets turned into a 9. However, ogres are brutish. Let's see, they ignore wounds on move, attack, and recovery. They are +1 to... Oh, that's in melee. Let's see, +1 one shot. He has 4 wounds, so this he might be okay. The other thing is, remember, all of the big boys are wearing light armor, so he saves on an 8 or better. He didn't make his save, so he's wounded. That means he has to fall down and go boom. And I do have my fancy wound markers, so we'll put 1 wound marker down right there. Then we count down. Any more 9s? No, nobody has any more 9s to drop. How about 8? Yeah, we got 3 8s that we want to do. And I think the smart play here for the elves. So now we're going to count down the 8 of spades. No. 8 of hearts. Yeah, this archer now is going to take a shot at that. Here's with the 8 of hearts. Oh, no. Yeah, hearts goes next. And that's going to be we'll have to check the range. Is he at 12 centimeters? 12 centimeters is a little bit short. Like his brother over here in the foreground, he is going to be at a total of +2. The ogre has fallen down. He's going to be at an additional -1, so a total of +3. He wins by 4 once again. We take another wound check, and this time we get an 11. Does he save? And with a 7 or better, he does not. That means the big guy... Wait, is that right? The big guy is already out of the game? We got a 9 on that? Yeah, boy, maybe I picked the wrong crew here, guys. Then we call off the 8 of diamonds, and we're just going to hold, I guess. We'll keep this guy in the rear. Remember, last time our archers did absolutely nothing. Having taken that guy out already, that's great. The big boys now get to go on the 8 of clubs. And since the archers have already gone, we're going to go ahead and bring everybody out. We've smoked out the blamage. We're going to drop our leader, and he's going to move 5 centimeters. And that leaves us with calling down 5. Oh, 5, 4. We're going to bring all 3 figures on. We're going to bring the other big ugly. And not only that, it's going to be really interesting to see what happens on the next turn, because we are going to go ahead and bring our first boar rider onto the table. And with the big guys running interference for him, he's going to be able to move 10 centimeters on this first. So 8 to 20, he's already up there. And this next deal is going to be kind of a big one, isn't it? The other rider says, I'm not going to stand for that. I'm going to put myself in position to get in your way. He's going to use both actions to move. And because they move 10 inches on a move, he can move a total of 20 inches. We're using centimeters because it's half scale, of course. And that's going to be the end of the turn for everybody. Oh, except for our wild mage, who says, I can move 5 centimeters. And I can make your life difficult. I am going to try to drop a briar wall. This has a range of 6 centimeters. And here's the briar wall that I'm going to be using. Oh, let me look that rule up real quick. This will crumble at the beginning of his next turn, which I take to mean at the start of his next activation. It's the end of the turn. If we cast it now, it wouldn't make any sense. So anything but a 1, and look at that, we got an 8. We cast on a heart, which means I think we auto-success. He's a master guy. He's got the +1 on the heart. That means he only needs a 2 up. Oh, and we have the reroll. So a 1 still fails. And a 1 does have blowback. If we roll a 1 on the spell casting, and that 1 sticks around, bad things happen. We turn now to turn number 2. With a range of 6 centimeters, he drops the briar wall right here. It's 6.5 centimeters long, a little too long for the rules, but that's okay. We're going to use this same template for the lightning bolt, which is smaller than the normal template would be. It all balances out in the end. Here you can see we are on turn number 2. I'm going to try to move the camera around a little bit more. I think my last video got a little bit static there over the last 20 minutes of the video. A little hard to look at, isn't it? Dealing the cards looks a little something like this. The 9 of hearts is for this archer. The Queen of diamonds is for the spellcaster. Two of clubs. Oh boy, he's about to get charged, isn't he? And then a pair of fours back here for the other two big guys. The good news is for the big boys, their card in hand is a 10 of hearts. And that's very good news because as we count down and we say, you know what? Our charger is going to be perfectly comfortable. Let's wait until the archers can soften up the big boys a little bit more. We can play our king and we're just going to hold. The queen is also going to hold. This king, however, I think we're going to go ahead and charge. Remember that we're really good at charging, and there's a special ability these guys have that we haven't really talked about. If he's within, okay. I got to double check this one. I think our charger has to be within 10 centimeters. But on further review, they only move 8 centimeters, which means I got to bring this guy back a little bit. I got to bring this guy back a solid 4 centimeters to here. That's as far as he can get. And yeah, you can charge. Do we want to now that we're that far away? I don't think we do. We're going to stand back and just see what happens. Wait a minute. My big guy here. So that didn't work out so well. I mean, I guess it was good just in case. But we're going to bring him back 5 centimeters. And we are going to rest. So he can now cast another spell. He uses 1 action to move, 1 to rest. Then this archer is going to take a shot with the jack of clubs. And he's going to be shooting at the leader over here, 19. So we have all the same rules apply. He is going to be at a total of +2, +3. It's 1 for aiming, 1 for being a deadeye, and 1 for shooting at a big boy. So he's at a total of +3. Oh, but he's at long distance range, so he's going to be at a total of +2 to the blue die. And with a 6 versus a 5, he hits for just 1 point. The wound roll is going to be an 18, and that is going to force a save or a wound. A result of a 6 ain't gonna cut it, I don't think. The Minotaur leader is unstoppable. He's a leader ferocious. He's got the big club. No, he's going to fall down with a wound roll. Yeah, all right. So that's 1 wound there, and that's going to slow him down, even though I think he recovers pretty well. But because the elf fired, that allows the big guy to come on. We're going to burn our 10 of hearts. And that means we can pull back a little bit and see where he appears. We're going to put him as close as we can get. The second charger is going to appear right here, and he's going to move a total of 8 centimeters to basically right here. Ta-da! And so we just need to get him to the top of the hill and then get him off the table, and we're good to go. He will suffer a bow shot from this guy who says, hey, Sneaky Pete, can't be letting you get away with that. And at 20 centimeters range, we don't need to see it. 20 centimeters means we've got... Now, in this case, the blue die is... Well, I don't even need to check it right. He's going to be at +1, -1 altogether, so it's a neutral roll. 7 versus 1, that's a 6. So that's going to be at a +3 on the roll, but it just delivers a shock. And because it's a shock, now our orc riders... They must charge. They ignore shock and wounds in combat, but that's it. They still have to fall back the 8 inches. So he's going to drop back into the woods with the shock marker. And now it's time for the last 3. Let me move the camera a little bit up there. There we go. So it's time for the last 3 guys to figure out what they're going to do. The 2 4s go, so I can move this guy a total of 10 centimeters. But remember, he's got to cross the stream. And to give these guys a little bit more... survivability, since it's not going well for them, I'm going to allow the bridge to exist. So that guy moves 4 centimeters. Our leader is going to have to make a recovery check in order to stand up. He is unstoppable. So that just means if he wins a combat, if he knocks somebody out of the game, he gets to make a 5-inch move. He does have 4 wounds, but I think... Oh, he's got a +1 to his recovery roll. That's what it is. So his recovery roll is a 4... And a 4 on the recovery roll, I think that means he's still down. You want to get let's see, on a 4, you are still wounded. Oh, we got to subtract 1 from that. So it is actually a 3. And with that, he is still wounded. But I think he can crawl a little bit. One crawling move, 5 centimeters, but he doesn't want to do that. Then we've got our roll 2 dice, pick 2. Our Zoomy boy is going to draw some aggro. He can move a total of 16 centimeters. It's going to cost him 2 to get to the stream. It's going to cost him 5 to get across it. That's 7. Well, actually, it's 5 total to get to here. And then he gets across, so he's moved 7. He can move another 9 centimeters. He's going to ride up here, and he's just trying to draw those riders out of the way. That is the end of turn number 2. Turn number 3, we'll start with the cards looking a little something like this. That shocked boar rider down in the woods, he got a 7 of diamonds. We'll get to that when we get to it. The boar rider wants to go first. He wants to take advantage of his charge, so he declares that his ace is a king of spades. He moves into contact with the elf rider, and we got a couple of modifiers we got to work out here. The elf has fancy feet. He wins ties. The boar rider has charged, so he is at +1. So the red die is +1, and the blue die wins if it ties. The boar rider wins by 8. That means the elf is going to have to make a wound roll at, well, remember, he's got heavy armor, so that's going to help out a lot. But at a difference of 8, he is going to be at +3 on the wound chart. So we roll, and with a 4, he just gets a shock, which, if he passes his 5-up save, which he does, is nothing at all. And now he gets to counterattack. He did not charge. He is still going to be at... Now, the Orc Rider is... Oh, the Orc Rider was at +1 to wound, but that's not enough to bump that shock up to a wound, so we're good. I think we did that one right. He didn't charge, so he still wins ties. I'm trying to see if the Orc Rider, does he get any more bonuses? No. It's going to be a straight roll. The blue die wins a tie. The blue die wins by 3 and makes a wound check at +1. He delivers a shock, and that boar rider is going to move 8. He's basically going to move right back to where he started from. He's going to fall back 8 centimeters. And given the way this scenario works, I want to measure that and make sure, yep, he's far enough back. Now we have a whole lot of counting down to do. 10, 9, 8, 7. There's our 7. The 7 of diamonds means this boar rider, he can ignore the shock marker, but only in combat. If he wants to keep moving, he can. And I think we do. Given the state of things, rather than making a recovery roll, we're just going to go ahead and bring him up the full... Now, remember, it's -1 per action, so he can only move 14. He is 12 away, so that last centimeter of movement is going to take him to right about there. And then we have another 7 over here. The leader now decides he wants to make a recovery roll. He's at +1 because he's such a big boy. And with that recovery roll, he stands up. The wound will stay with him. He's still at -1 on everything. And I think that's both of his actions. Which means it's time for our spellcaster to take a move. I'm not going to pre-measure this one. What else does he have in his retinue? He can cast Bind, has a range of 12. Is he in range? He's not. He's going to have to move up. Boy, that's going to be rough. If he moves up into this area, he's going to put himself at risk of getting clobbered by this guy. Oh, these difficult decisions that you run into when you play games of this sort. I think maybe we go the other direction. Let's see if we can hold this guy in place. We're going to bring him 5 centimeters to here, and then, oh, but he's out of range. So what do we do with our leader? Can we bring him 5 centimeters to here and get him in range? 12 centimeters is just in range. That's what we do. We're going to hide behind this bowman. That's what brave leaders do. They hide behind their troops, and we're going to drop that spell. On further review, I did that wrong. Both the caster and the victim make... Oh, and you know what else I've been doing wrong? That big boy should be rolling a D12 for his wound and recovery checks. Whoops. So the caster makes a roll, and he gets a 6. The defender gets a 1 with a difference of 5. Success. The victim enters a trance-like state and is now helpless. he must make a recovery roll to shake off the helpless status. As indicated by the black piece of, it's actually like a fog bank thing, but I put that under to show that he's helpless. Now the archers have +2 to hit him. And yeah, the elves might actually pull one out this time, huh? How about that? Then we go to the hearts, and the big guy says, I want a piece of you. Now he charged. And he's got the club. He's a brawler. He rolls D12 in melee. He is at +1. If he loses, he gets a +1 on his roll. And he automatically delivers a shock. This could be big. This could be big. We're both rolling D12s here. Because he didn't charge, the rider is at even Stevens. Before those dice land, let's use the D12 for the big guy. He gets a 12 to a 1, and that's going to be a shock automatically. Clubs are shocking. So we're going to drive that guy back. Then we are also going to have to make a wound check at +3, and that's going to be a 7, which will deliver a wound. However, as he is a rider, he gets to make a check on an 8 up. On a 6, it's no good, so the rider does take the wound, and he's going to go down, and that means he doesn't block movement anymore. So the wound and the shock from just that one big club. These big guys are terrifying. That might make all the difference in the world. He is going to have to face off against one other guy, but first we have a couple more elves that have to go. We've got our 2 archers. We'll do the archer down here, firing at the boy in the stream. The archer is still at long range, and if you don't believe me, I'll show you what 12 centimeters looks like. There it is, long range. I'll pull both of these up. We're going to do the one in front. Long range means it's -1. He's aiming, so that means he is at +1, and he's really good, so he's an additional +1 for a total on the blue die of +1. The blue die is going to miss. This guy is going to take a shot at the leader. Remember, he's at +2, +3 for aiming, +4 for skills, but -1 for range. Blue die is at a total of +3, and this time I'll roll the proper defensive die. 6 versus 4 is hitting. The wound check is going to be on a regular D10, and with a 9, he's out unless he passes his save, which he does not. And I forget how fragile people are when you roll those 9s and 10s. The leader is gone, but the fight is not over yet. They've just cleared the path. This guy now says, hey, can't let you hurt my buddy, and he's going to ride into the fight. He gets to roll 2 dice, so I'll roll 2 blue dice for the elf, who, because he charged, is at +1 to melee and wins ties. The ogre, however, is just still at +1, but he does get to roll that blue die. Counting the best... this extra die is because of he waited until the 2s, so he gets to roll 2 dice, take the best. The brawler gets to re-roll his melee roll. That's the other thing with brawlers. He re-rolls and gets a 1 this time. He is going to go down. He is going to be at a total of +2 on this wound check. And with a 4, he takes a shock. Say, you know what? It occurs to me, this guy took a shock. What happens when you take a shock and a wound at the same time? I think we're going to move him. I think the shock means he's got to move. And I think... normally he moves 8, but we're only going to move him 6. He's going to retreat 6 to here. He's got to go away from the enemy. He's going to be behind the hill there. But he's at -2 on his movement because he's got the shock and the wound. This guy takes a shock, and he's going to fall back, kapow, 5 centimeters. And because we have Thunderous Charge, and we're here... he is within 16 centimeters. We can charge. We can do a follow-up attack and still get into contact. That's one of the great parts about Thunderous Charge. This might be a mistake, but we'll give it a shot. The big boy is going to have, and because we used our reroll already, our big boy gets to reroll his 4. He winds up with a 9 this time. But we're both at +1, so that negates for the weapons. Charging is +1. The big guy is at plus... Wait, is he at +1? He is... must charge... No. He's the brawler. He ignore wounds on move, attack, and recovery. You got it. +1 wound will hit, +1 to shot, 4 wounds. He's going to wind up winning this by... We get a +1 here is all. -1 here, so it's going to be 4 to 8. We win by 4. That's going to be +2 on the wound check. And it's... Well, wait a minute. It's +1. Because he is an ogre, he is at an additional... does he have an additional +1 for strength? I don't think he does. I think that's just going to be a 6, but that is going to be a wound. We check to see if it hits the horse on an 8 up, which it does not. So this guy is going to fall down. And that's going to be the end of the turn. We move on to turn number 4. And the deal looks a little something like this. Our shocked guy is going to use 4 of his 14 centimeters to cross the stream, and he's going to wind up somewhere right about here. That, of course, was on the King of Spades, using the ace as the wild card. Our spellcaster is going to rest for a turn, for an action, and move 5 centimeters up to there. Clear out a little more space, and then, wouldn't you know it, our ogre gets to go next, and he's going to bash the horseman who is down, and the horseman is now he didn't charge. He's going to be at -1 for the wound, -1 because he's laying down. And the big guy is going to be at, let's see, ogres. He's rolling d12s. The elf still gets fancy foot. We're still going to give him the reroll. But the ogre also gets a reroll. So it's going to be interesting. He ignores his wounds on move, attack, and recovery. He doesn't ignore the shock, though. So he will be at -1. And the 9 versus the 12... This becomes an 11 for the shock. This becomes a 7. We win by 4. We're going to roll on the wound chart at a total of +2. He delivers another shock to the wounded guy. And, oh, no, this 3 becomes a 5. And the 5, right, 1 for the wound means you add 1. And then because he's the big guy, 5 is still going to be shaken. And our wounded guy, I think he needs to ride 6 centimeters out of the way like this. And that's going to be a total of -2. I don't want you looking at his washer. He's too good looking a miniature for that. He's going to be at -2 on his recovery roll. And that frees things up for this orc rider to say, I can make it all the way to the base of the hill. Oh man, he's like just 1 centimeter short of making it to the top of the hill. But that's kind of right where he wants to be. In fact, given that he's going to be a little bit short, I'm going to bring him over here so that on the turn number 5, he can get to the top of the hill. And we want to stay as far away from the sorcerer as we can. After all, that sorcerer has a 12-inch range and only takes 1 action to move. We do have 2 other archers that can fire, and we're going to turn this archer towards the boar rider, who is just off camera. Why is he just off camera? Let's just slide it back here so we can see. Since he has not moved, he is at long range, so the red die is going to go from a 14. He's at +2, -1. That will go to a 5. The boar rider goes to a 0, and losing by 1 means we make a... Oh, I forgot to roll his save. I keep doing that. That is just going to deliver another shock to this guy, and that will push him, oddly enough, 8 centimeters in this direction. No, it will push him 7, but 6, because that's his second shock, and now he's going to have to spend next turn recovering from that shock. We have another archer who says, I want to take a shot at this big guy, and that big guy is still going to be at long range, +1 to the blue die. That he's going to win by 1. Oh, I forgot to roll to see if the shock is negated. The light armor rolls a 9. Oh, he doesn't get a shock. Look at that. All right, so the shock becomes nothing. He's going to stay right where he was. Now the big guy is going to roll, and he's not in melee, so we do roll the d10. And the blue die is going to be at +1 altogether. It's -1, +1, +1. So he gets a 4 versus a 4. Ties go to the defender, I believe. I think you have to beat him. Wait. Wait. If you win by a score of 1 to 2, yeah, so that's to no effect. The archer's string of good luck is over, and now our champion, now he's a defensive fighter, and he's a cagey fella. So he's going to do something real sneaky. He's going to move 10 centimeters, and you might think this is crazy and suicidal, but remember, the number of turns is limited. And if he moves to here, oh, you know, in retrospect, this guy needs to make his recovery roll. And with a 6, 7, 8, he is going to fail that roll. Remember, he's got a shock and a wound marker. So with a result of an 8, he is... Oh, wait, that is... I'm sorry, I got that backwards. The 6 becomes a 5, becomes a 4. He's still wounded. He can crawl 8 centimeters. But it occurs to me, this guy here needed to charge because he has ferocious. He has to fight this battle. Oops. The guy on the ground is at a total of -2. He gets to re-roll the blue die. The red die gets to roll, gets a +1 because he charged. So this becomes a 10. This becomes an 8, but he gets a re-roll. And now it becomes a, ooh, we didn't want to re-roll that, did we? Because, oh no, I'm sorry, we don't get a re-roll. It's an 8 versus a 10, so that is going to be a wound check. And with a 10, this figure is actually eliminated. The mounted guy is going to, well, no, he's out of action. It's when it's a wounding hit that the mount might take it. But if you're out of action, you're just out of action. Sorry, Charlie. Now, the reason that our leader moved over here is that both of these, well, this figure at least has to charge him. That's going to slow this figure down. That might buy them time to win this game. Remember, even if they map the valley next door, they still have to get off the table. And with the highest card going to the Boar Rider down here, we have to check the charge distance. Here's our 14 centimeters. He is within range. Slide this card out of the way. That means our Boar Rider's not going to be able to ride the flank. He's within 14 centimeters. I think that last move, he was far enough out of the way. Coming up here. Oh, yeah, now he says, no, I really want to fight you. So he's at +1. The archer now has to take a straight roll. The blue die is whatever the blue die is. He rolls a 4. The Orc Rider is going to be at +1 on the combat. +2, actually, because he has a sword and the bow guy does not. He rolls an 11. He wins by 7. That is going to be a +3 on the wound check, but because he is ferocious, I'm sorry, the 7 is +3. He gets an extra +1, so this is +4. And with a 10, we roll for the heavy armor, we fail, and this becomes a off the table. Then, because he is... Does he have anything else he can do? +1 for melee, fallback. Nope, he's done. Although, come to think of it, he is a -1. Does that make a difference? 7, 1, 6, 7... No, it does not. He's still going to... We rolled high enough. I don't think that's going to make a difference. Maybe that archer slowed him down just enough. Be that as it may, our next card is going to be the 10. And as I said, this fella is going to have to charge here. That's the next highest. And now we're rolling a D12 versus a D10. The D12 is our champion. He's a defensive fighter. He's going to... He's lucky, so he gets a reroll. We gotta remember that. D12 with a reroll versus a D10 straight up. The 9 versus 6 means, yeah, we want to take that victory, and we're going to be at +1 on the wound check. We get a 5, that delivers a shock, and this Boar Rider is going to have to bounce back 6 centimeters to there. And because he won that combat, he gets to make a second attack. This time he's going to win by 8, 7. It's going to be a +3 on the wound check. 3 + 3 is a wound, and now this guy goes down. Oh, it's way worse than that, because... Is it way worse than that? The 3 becomes a 5. The wound, he was rolling D12 on the wound. The 3... Well, we get a save. The save is... Oh, he's got a shield. The save is successful, so that does remain a shock. All right. I might have messed something up there, but that shock does force this guy back one. Then it's going to be the 9 of diamonds. Oh, our leader can also say, hey, get rid of that shock. That's one of the leader's abilities. And then this guy can try to recover, and with an 8, that becomes a 7, he can stand up. That's going to be his action. And he will continue to slow down the ogre. Now, the ogre gets to go, oh no, our leader gets to go next. And he says, Hexy Poo, hex on you. I'm going to try to ensorcel this guy as well. He rolls a 7 versus a 2. Oh, he already used his, did he use his reroll? I think you only use your reroll on your actions, now that I think about it. Winning by 5 means that he is going to drop the stinky cloud of where'd you think you're going? And this guy is now going to have to use his next action. He gets a reroll, that's good. But we do have a bow guy who is going to spin and take a shot at this rider. The rider is going to be at -1. The archer is going to be at +1 for the aiming, +1 for the ability. So blue +2, red -1. Nothing doing. Then the big ogre is going to try to make his recovery roll. And he gets a 10, so he shakes it off. Oh, he gets a 9, actually. So that recovery roll is going to mean he's still recovered from, is it a shake and roll? Let me refer to the rules, are always helpful to keep on hand. Ensorcelled, success on a 4 to 6. Must make a recovery roll to shake off the helpless status. While helpless, yeah, that's it. So I'm assuming a recovery roll means just recovering the same as a wound. That's going to be the end of the turn. We move on to turn number 6. And the elves are having a time of it on these deals, aren't they? We get to choose what we want to do. We got a pair of kings over here. Why don't we go ahead and... Who do we want the big boy to fight? Do we want this? He's got two. The problem is we got 2 shock markers over here. He's got to charge. Maybe we wait until the queen. That's what we're going to do. We're going to bring this guy over and try to squash the spellcaster. How dare you, sir? How dare you? This is going to be a tough fight for him, though. The ogre is going to roll a 2. Oh, man, this is not going to go well. The boss man is going to win by 10, and he's going to try to deliver a death blow with a 5, 6, 7, 8. That is going to knock this guy. Well, he does get an armor save. A 1 ain't going to do it, and that eliminates this ogre. The really big problem is if this guy drops a queen, he can remove one of the shock markers with a queen of hearts. That'll help. We probably should have used that on some of these previous turns, huh? But he's still got a charge over here. I'm not going to lie to you. I got to rerun this combat because I forgot about that reroll. It is once per turn, not once per activation. We get a 9 versus an 11. We're not going to use the reroll this time, are we? That becomes a winning roll, and the 2 hit die is going to be an 11 for a wound. The save is failed, and that's this rider is now out of the game. The next activation is going to be this rider who has to charge, and this is a real problem. I drew up the abilities before I drew up the scenario. Having impetuous riders who always ride to attack as your flankers is a bad idea. They are forced by the rules to go after the kill instead of the victory conditions. But here we get a 10, that becomes an 11, becomes a 12 because he's fighting a guy on foot, versus the 7, and that's going to be a 5, which is a +2 on the out of action roll. That is a 7. He fails his save, and that means the elf is out of action. We'll take away his card, but now it's this one boar rider against a wounded guy and our king. And our king says, you know what, I'm going to move 5 centimeters. He goes next. And now I'm going to drop my lightning spell, Kazap. And that lightning spell has a template, we said, that looks a little something like this. He will be tired. I'll mark it just because you never know what's going to happen next. That does an automatic wound. Oh, that goes under my spellcaster. That does an automatic wound to the boar rider. And with a result of a 4, that's going to deliver a second shock. That's going to force him 8 centimeters away. I'm sorry, he's got the shock markers. It's going to force him 6 centimeters away, and we're going to move him back like this. Let me stack him up right there. There we go. So now he is pretty far away. Did he get far enough away to escape from this rider? He's got a charge of 14 because of the wound, and he will at least be far enough away from that guy. That's going to be the end of turn number 6. Moving on to turn number 7. The only real hope, I think this game is over. The only real hope that Boar Rider has of winning this game, we'll do a quick little shuffle, is killing both of these characters and then getting to the top of the hill, spending a turn, and then getting off by the end of 3 more turns. Not likely. He does at least get the high card, and he can't use the Queen of Diamonds to recover from the shock. If he does, he's going to get charged by this guy. That would be his plan anyway. So he says, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. But heals a wound means he's being charged by a guy who is at full strength. And this fight is probably not going to go his way. He is at -2 altogether. That becomes a 3. The guy that charged him is going to be at +1 for the charge. And with a difference of 4, the wound roll is going to be a 9 + 1 is a 10. If he can make his save, it becomes a 3rd shock, which is, he does not. So the wound roll means he is legitimately wounded. And that's really going to be the end of the game. Because, well, on his turn, he can he can say, you know what, I'm going to use a Queen of Hearts too to stand up, but he still has to fight a second round of combat at -2. The only thing he's got going for him now is that, he wins it at least. He doesn't get the charge bonus, though. So he wins by 6. The mounted guy wins ties. That doesn't do him any good. He wins by 6. No, he doesn't. He wins by 4. +1 on the wound check is going to be a 6. Does our mounted guy save with a 7? He does not have a shield. He does not. So now he is wounded. But again, everything is just so slow. Our leader here is going to be able to slide over and say, come at me, bro. And that's all he's going to do this turn. And here at the end of turn number 8, we'll deal him out. Our charge gets to go first. He's got to fight the defensive fighter. There's no zone of control on this guy. So really the best we can do is try to recover a shock. But he can't because he's got to charge the nearest guy in charge range. So he's going to fight a battle. He's at +1. But the guy he's fighting is at D12. Oh, it's a 6. Oh, but the guy he's fighting gets to re-roll. Oh, look at that. He rides him down. Let us say that the wound check wounds our king, and he can ride another 5 centimeters because he's mounted. Our king is going to make his, well, first of all, the rider that's down makes a recovery check. And with a 3-4, he stays down. Our king makes a recovery check. And with a 2-1, I think he's out of the game. But it's not going to matter. Suppose he even knocks this guy out of the game. Now we are at the end of turn number 8, and we roll a d10. And on a 1 through 8, the game is over. Oh, look at that. The game is over. If we had rolled a 9, we would play 1 more turn. If we had rolled a 10, we would play 2 more turns. But honestly, look at that. I mean, even if he took the 1 turn to go up here, on turn number 10, he maps out the thing. He does not have time to get back to his general in time for his little map of the enemy's encampment to do the general any good. This is going to be a solid win for the elves, despite them finishing the battle, bleeding all over the battlefield. Probably that elvish wine cost them in this one, but kind of a fun scenario. Not just a straight-up battle. I mean, it turned into one because our orcs are pretty stupid, but you can see where if you knew this was the scenario, you could build some really interesting competing and counterbalanced forces. Interestingly, I think the elves might have had an easier time as the attackers, kind of, because remember, they would ignore the stream. They are all rangers. They're not affected. They're not slowed down. And they wouldn't have had to use their riders to keep charging into battles that they knew they were going to lose. There's a lot going on in this game. This is why we do what we do. And with a little bit of creativity, you don't need a whole lot of terrain. You can have some fun, even in your little hotel bedroom with just a little shoebox full of 10mm miniatures. Just make a couple of simple assumptions, and you're off to the races. Unless you're the orcs, in which case racing is not your strong point. Until next time, I'm praying for you.